Hi, I'm Ken Spector.
Hi, Ken Spector.
Nice to meet you.
I love
And,
you have a radio voice.
and what is your, I'm on the radio actually.
yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing with Emma?
Yes, we've been a sponsor now for 2 years, and they are underwriting gardens in Los Angeles. In other words, they're not only producing a check for gardens like at inner city schools, but also community gardens, and Kellogg goes alongside of them and provides all the organic soil, fertilizer, mulch, everything that the garden needs. And the education, because kids and people are a little afraid of gardening, which they shouldn't be. But just to do it organically, how do you do that? And then how do you produce the food, and the kids are eating from the garden. They're actually cooking and growing their own food.
How are gardens changing young minds?
That's a great question. That's a great question, Ken. One, I've seen kids, especially the kids that are tapping their pencil and bored and eyes rolling when they get out in the garden. They are so engaged. If it's the caterpillar on the leaf or it is the worm in the soil, and my name's Kathy Kellogg Johnson, Mrs. Johnson, come over here. You know, the ladybug, the aphid, whatever it is, they're engaged. And they are amazed that something pops out of that plant they planted that they can eat. And then the addition that I think it's going to get our kids off of what I call the white diet. You know, flour, McDonald's, what pasta, you know, and out into
Stop, you're making me really hungry.
You got to continue to be hungry. But yeah, I had one little girl I gardened with, never ate anything but pasta and butter. And when she came out to the garden with me, she grabbed a little bell pepper, a tiny little baby, popped it in her mouth and went, "Mrs. Johnson, it's garden candy." And she is a full vegetarian. She eats everything natural as a little bit of a grown-up.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
And how is gardening in general changing the planet? People learning to garden?
It is a great question, and it's bigger than just everyone's plot in their backyard. Believe it or not, especially doing it organically, using copious amounts of compost, you're ending up with, believe it or not, a negative a carbon footprint. There's an impact on the carbon because soil, and this is a big question for a little tiny bit of time, but it is, soil is the biggest carbon sink, period. You could spend $1 gajillion trying to invent something to grab carbon out of the atmosphere. Soil does it, nature does it, and all we need to do is go back to what we used to do. The tree litters, the leaves, leave them on the ground. Don't blow everything away, cover the soil, and it sequesters and actually has a tremendous impact on greenhouse gas emission. And people don't connect that. But in terms of, you probably were going for people gardening, out there with their kids, getting exercise, getting a little sun, a lot of vitamin D, and producing their own food, trying new recipes. It's a great connection all around. And I'm so thrilled that Emma is underwriting it all. And kids that I see in the inner city that are excited about a career in landscaping, a career in gardening, a career in producing their own stall at a farmer's market. It's really a brilliant connection. And now, again, even though there's funding cuts to the school, Emma's out there supplying the money and supplying the gardening products that we do, Kellogg's does, and the kids are getting it.
Well, thank you so much. You're doing wonderful
Love
work.
your voice. Gosh.
Thanks.
Man, that's